Those of you who travel for work know what it's like to walk into yet another strange hotel room in yet another city you don't want to be in. Maybe I'm just a damn pessimist, a miser, or just don't trust people. After a quick look around the room to get an idea of its layout, I placed my travel bag and briefcase on the floor. Then the first thing I do is check the seals on the minibar. There's no way I'm going to pay the inflated prices that hotels charge for miniature bottles, even if they're paid for by travel expenses. And even more so, I'm not going to pay for something that I didn't use myself. This is followed by a quick check of the cleanliness of the room, bed, and towels. A chic lobby and friendly reception does not mean that the rest of the staff is up to par. After checking that the bed linen is in order, I look under the bed. I made this new rule after I read about a guy in New York who found the body of a dead girl under his bed. Someone might read this and demand it back. Don't worry, I formatted the hard drive and my daughter loves the iPod, even though I had to buy new headphones. Finally, after making sure that there is both hot and cold water running in the bathroom and that the phone is working, I turn on the TV. It's good to check your phone first, because if the TV isn't working, trying to swear into a dead phone can be extremely frustrating. Although I don't watch TV that often, it's nice to have a little background noise, especially if the neighbors are making noise or making love. Some cheap hotels have very thin walls, and I'm not particularly interested in listening to a couple trying to wear out the bed in the next room. Where do these people get so much energy? Everything turned out to be in order at this hotel. However, as always, but as I already said, I'm a bit of a pessimist and I need to check everything. In fact, I was an irritated pessimist, as I did not want to spend another night away from my beloved wife, Floretta. Floretta. Yes, a strange name, French. Florette's mother was French. It is said that her father was shot down during the war, and Floretta's mother's family hid him from the Germans, nursed him back to health, and then helped him get to Spain. After the war, he returned and married the family's daughter, and then took her to England. The problem with Floretta's name is that there is no way to shorten it, so most often I call her Babe. I left the TV on while I showered and changed. When I came out of the bathroom, the local news was just starting at 7:30, so I switched the TV to ETV because the news started there at the same time. Everything is the same. Politicians are talking about some kind of global crisis and are going to start a war somewhere else. Oh, they call it peacekeeping, but damn, don't these bastards realize that our guys are under fire there? Hell, we all know the plan is to keep voters interested in the war so they don't realize what a mess we have at home. I can't stand all this nonsense, so I turned down the volume a little and called Floretta on her cell phone. If possible, I do not pay inflated prices for phone calls from the hotel, especially since I have fast dialing on my mobile phone. There was no answer to my home number, so I called Floretta's cell phone, and as usual, it took a long time before she answered. I could imagine her rummaging through her purse for her phone. I could never understand how she manages to fit all this stuff into that bag. The damn thing is like a TARDIS. When she pulls out all her junk, no one will believe that it will all fit back in. Hello, dear. Did you get there okay? Floretta finally answered. Yes, okay, babe. There were traffic jams on the highway, as always, so we had to wait. The hotel room isn't that bad. There have been worse. By the way, where are you? First I called home. I'm at Jenny's. I didn't see the point in returning to an empty house again. And what? Oh, just interesting. I should have known that Florette would be at Jenny's. These two have been inseparable most of the time since I met Floretta at Jenny's wedding. Jenny's husband, Joseph, was the younger brother of my best friend Sheldon, although over the years, Joe and I have become closer thanks to the close friendship of our wives. Floretta said she was having dinner at Jenny and Joe's and might be staying the night. Since there was no point in returning to an empty house, Floretta had stayed with them before when I was away, so this did not come as a surprise to me. After we exchanged affection, and I told Floretta that I would see her the next evening, we ended the conversation and I went down to the restaurant for dinner. I wasn't very impressed with the menu, so I opted for my usual steak. This one came back to the kitchen once because it wasn't cooked to my liking. Oh yeah, I can be a real pain in the ass, especially when I'm away from Floretta. I'm so angry that I'm looking for any excuse to let off steam. After dinner, I went to the bar. Hey, maybe you'll be lucky enough to see something pleasing to the eye this evening. Entering the bar, I realized that the evening could be interesting, to say the least. The first girl I noticed, I immediately wrote down as a girl of easy virtue. She sat at the counter and assessed everyone who came in. At one of the tables sat four women, a little older, who seemed to have decided to have a bachelorette party. A couple of men, most likely representatives of trading companies, kept asking them to dance, and each of the women took turns dancing. But in my opinion, the men failed. The four would obviously return to their loving husbands unharmed, which they did later when one of the husbands came to pick them up. Well, I assumed it was the husband. If it wasn't him, these four were capable of killing him on the spot. 3 against 1, all right, but 5 against 1? Yes, they would have killed him. There were several couples and small groups at the bar, including one couple who looked like newlyweds. Damn, I hope they're not in the room next to me. The two couples looked like they were on the run. The age difference didn't seem natural to me. Although, perhaps the girls were just escorts, who knows. Apart from the prostitutes, there were only a few women in the bar who came alone, and of course, there were a few men, as well as small groups of representatives and workers who were staying away from home for the night. Watching them, I could tell that some of them were looking for adventure, while others were simply enjoying a quiet drink before a lonely night in an unfamiliar bed. I didn't see her in the restaurant, but damn, I and almost everyone else saw her when she walked into that bar. God, she slid across the floor as if she wasn't touching it. She stopped and looked around, nervously, it seems to me, as if she didn't know what to do next, then headed to the bar, where she took a chair not far from an easily accessible girl, who at that moment was having a conversation with a rather plump guy. I assumed they were discussing business. As soon as the woman approached the bar, the first wolf was next to her. A little premature, I think, but this woman was the kind of woman who makes all married men. I guess men have a conscience wish they weren't happily married. She seemed to politely refuse the wolf's offer of a drink. I would like to hear what she told him. Be that as it may, the wolf quickly retreated. How to describe this woman who captured the attention of every man in the room when she walked in? Well, she wasn't a young flirt or anything like that. I'd say she's about the same age as Floretta, about 38. She had medium-length reddish hair and wore the most killer outfit of all, a little black dress. The dress accentuated her figure to perfection and ended just below her knees. As she sat down on the bar stool, the LBD rose slightly, causing every man in the room to take a deep breath. The heels were high enough to highlight the shape of her calves. Damn, this woman had posture. If she were younger, I would have mistaken her for another girl offering sex services, like the other two really beautiful girls in the bar. But there was something about her that said it wasn't so. There was something in her demeanor that suggested she was not used to entering a bar alone. Damn it, any man who lassoed her would be damn stupid to let her go anywhere alone where there were wolves. Having bought her drink from the now beaming bartender who had the sour expression on his face with which he served me gone, the woman looked around the room for a free table and, to my chagrin, chose the one next to mine. Why was I unhappy? Well, I like to look at beautiful women. Isn't this the case with all men? Sorry, maybe there are ladies here reading this. Either way, with her seat so close to me, I couldn't admire her beauty without making it obvious. She didn't have time to sit for long when another man approached her and asked her to dance. She politely refused, and he retreated, but was immediately replaced by a third man who was not going to give up so easily. When she refused to dance with him, he offered her a drink. To be honest, this guy had drunk too much, so he was completely unable to understand that his attention was not welcome. He sat down at her table and continued his ridiculous attempts to seduce her. This was my chance to play the savior knight. Well, not right away. First, I let it raise this woman's anxiety level a little. I will note that I had no intention of doing anything inappropriate that evening, being a married man and all. but enjoying this lady's company over a few drinks would help brighten up a boring and lonely evening. My moment had to be perfect. There were other gentlemen in the bar besides me, and I had to act quickly to achieve my goal. When I noticed another man moving across the room, I turned in my chair and intervened. Listen, buddy, the lady is clearly not enjoying your company or unwanted attention. So, please, fuck off before you upset her even more. Several moments passed before the guy focused his gaze on me again. Alcohol affects people this way. Even in such a drunken state, I saw that he still had the intelligence to consider the consequences of a possible conflict. What does that matter to you? He finally asked. This lady is my friend, and I don't like it when my friends are upset. On the other hand, I'm already pretty upset. So if you don't leave on your own, I'll be happy to blow off some steam and help you. I started to get up from my seat, but at that moment another guy appeared, clearly a colleague of the drunk, and convinced him that they really needed to be somewhere else. I beg your pardon, his friend said, dragging him away. He doesn't tolerate alcohol well. Don't apologize to me. He upset the lady, I answered as they walked out of the bar. Now standing, I turned to the woman. Sorry about that. Some people have no manners. Thank you. I never know what to say to drunk people. They don't take hints. My joy, madam. Now, if you don't think I'm too pushy, may I offer to buy you a drink? But before you answer, I raised my ring finger to show off my wedding ring. I am very happily married and intend to remain that way. She smiled back at me. Well, you immediately lay all your cards on the table. I wouldn't want anyone to misunderstand. Easy conversation is enough for me when I'm away from home. Your wife must be an amazing woman. Oh yes, she is, half French, half Scottish. The French half gives her beauty and passion, and the Scottish half gives her intelligence. She knows how to stretch a pound from home all the way to the kingdom of heaven. I'd love a gin and tonic, if that's okay. The woman said, shifting on the sofa she was sitting on and letting me know where she wanted me to sit when she returned with the drinks. Ian Cumberland at your service, I said, sitting down next to her, extending my hand. A little too formal, but who cares? Nice to meet you, Ian. I'm Stephanie Morris. My friends call me Annie. What brings you to this God-forsaken town tonight, Annie? God, he's really depressed, isn't he? I live in a village, well, in a small village, to be precise. And if you really need to know, a bank manager. Suddenly, I wondered what I had gotten myself into. Why did she need to be in town to see the bank manager? Annie must have read the confusion on my face, so she continued. We, or rather, now I, since I was recently widowed, run a small garage. No, damn it, it's just a gas station since my husband died. He ran the workshop, and I ran the gas station. It takes a lot of money to fill our tanks anyway, and I have a hell of an overdraft at the moment. My bank is here in town, and I have to come every 6 months to see the manager so he can look at the books. Really, I think it's just so he can charge me another £70 for an interview where he tries to make me feel like a child. Oh, I know people like that, full of their own greatness. Do you also have a large overdraft? No, I'm a security consultant. They love to play the I'm the smartest game, but I point out the holes in their security. This confuses them a little. And if you are here, who runs your garage? My children. Michelle is 17, and she keeps an eye on everything while I'm away. Philip will be at the console today. He's 15 and insists on doing his share of work when he gets home from school. He wants to become a mechanic and open a workshop again when he finishes his studies. It looks like you have good children. Do you have children? Yes, and I'm telling you, it's a coincidence. I also have an 18-year-old son. He studies at an engineering college. His name is Jack, but at home he is called Jacques. You know how the French pronounce it. The name is written in English, but my wife strongly insists on her French heritage. And we have a 15-year-old daughter. She studies at a boarding school. Oh, I wouldn't want my children to go to school. This is also not our choice with Floretta. Marinette is something of a cello prodigy. I don't get into all this classical music stuff. but we had to let her go where she could develop her skills in the best conditions. She claims she misses her brother and us, but judging by her letters, I think she's having a great time there, although she constantly calls her mother. Does your wife miss your children? Not sure. I think so. But since we've been left alone, she sometimes acts quite wild at home. It's a little reminiscent of how it was when we first got married. I don't think it's worth going into details. No, I don't think it's worth it. In any case, Floretta is involved in every charity organization. She and her best friend Jenny are always on some committee or other when they're not working. I'm constantly being dragged to all these fundraising events. Over the next couple of hours, Annie and I talked about our lives, and to be honest, what I thought would be a dull evening turned out to be quite fun. It's funny how we just clicked, and I understood why some men are easily led astray from the righteous path. I have to say I felt like there was some chemistry between us. I walked Annie to her room. Well, not quite up to the number. I exited the elevator on her floor, and after saying goodbye, I watched as she walked down the corridor to her room, went inside, and closed the door. Well, if you insist, she actually gave me a peck on the cheek and thanked me for a wonderful evening. But it was just a friendly smack. I was surprised to learn that it was already well after midnight when I returned to my room. In a couple of minutes, I was already in the dream world. What a pity that you can't always remember your dreams. I must have had a good dream because I woke up excited in the morning. This is not uncommon at home with Floretta, but on the road it rarely happens to me. I didn't have time to sit long in the dining room at breakfast when I was pleasantly surprised by Annie, who joined me at the table. Damn it, I can't remember what we talked about at breakfast, but then again, it was nicer than sitting alone. It was almost 8:30 when we said goodbye, and Annie ran to her room to get ready for the meeting. I was in no hurry because I couldn't get to the place I was checking out before 10. The inspection had to be cursory. I was on another coworker's property, and he inspected the place a few weeks ago. The idea was that no one there knew me by sight, and I had to find out if they had fixed the holes that my colleague had noticed. Back in my room, I turned on the TV for company while I read my colleague's report again. He advised wearing brown overalls to become invisible, because that is the color the company dresses its workers in. He also suggested which gates I could possibly go through. It was while I was pulling on my overalls that I heard the news at the end of the morning show, and it caught my attention. It was the name of my hometown that stuck with me. I live in a small town, and hearing its name on the national news was a surprise. They talked about a serious fire in one of the large hotels in the city, which occurred at night. It was a huge Victorian mansion, much larger than the town needed these days, but while our town was once at the junction between the territories of two different railway companies, apparently people used to stay overnight often. The screen suddenly changed from an image of a reporter standing in front of a smoking building to footage of the night's events. Why the hell the television crew ended up in our provincial town, I didn't understand, but their presence was to change my life. The reporter was talking about how many fire crews were present, and the image changed to footage of the night's events. First, they showed windows and a roof with fires raging in them, and then one of those giant lifts that firefighters use to rescue people. When the camera zoomed in on the victims being lowered to the ground, my heart stopped. There was my Floretta climbing out of the lift in what looked like a hotel robe with the help of Sheldon, who was wearing the same outfit. Their faces were hidden by plastic oxygen masks, but Floretta was clutching her damn little TARDIS bag, and I would have recognized Sheldon anywhere. We've been friends since the first day of elementary school. It seemed to me that now we were no longer friends. I don't know how I didn't throw the TV out the window, but somehow I managed to control myself. I took my cell phone and called Jenny's house. I thought Floretta would be there if she wasn't in the hospital or at work, but I doubted she would be there after the night she apparently had. As I thought, Jenny hasn't left for work yet. I heard her say, "Shut up," to quiet the other voices in the room as she picked up the phone. Funny thing is, I also heard the same news broadcast on her TV in the background. Convenient because they must have seen the same piece I did. "Hello," Jenny said, seeming a little hesitant. Hello, Jenny. Aren't you going to work today? Jenny covered the microphone with her hand. I heard the sounds that were made at the same time. Then she returned to the conversation, now sounding very scared. No, I'm not feeling well today. What can I do for you, Ian? Well, you can tell that bitch to get all her junk out of my house before I get back tonight. Tell her I'm filing for divorce today, and tell your brother-in-law that he better start running in the opposite direction if he sees me. But, no buts, Jenny. I just saw the same news report as you, so don't try to bullshit me. And I think it's best for you and Joe to stay away from me. You must have known about everything those two were planning behind my back. Honestly, Ian, it's not what you think. Nonsense, Jenny. Two people, naked except for their dressing gowns, at 4 o'clock in the morning. What kind of fool do you take me for? Now you better make sure she's not in my damn house when I get back tonight. I think you should talk to Floretta, Ian. Nonsense, I said and pressed the reset button. As quickly as possible, I went through my contact list on my phone and dialed the next number. Sanders and Fields, good morning, answered a confident voice. Hello, beautiful. This is Ian Cumberland. Is Derek there yet? Yes, he just arrived. Do you want to talk to him? But remember, he hasn't drunk his morning coffee yet. Tell that asshole that I'm going to put money in his pocket. Let this force him to answer the call. I heard the switch to standby and then a click as Derek picked up the phone. Why the hell are you calling so early? I just walked through the fucking door. Time for you to make some money, Ricky. Tell me, what do you know about Floretta and Sheldon? I don't like your question, Ian. Why would I know anything? So you don't know that Sheldon is sleeping with Floretta? Damn, Ian, of course, didn't know. You're my friend. God, we went to school together. So did Sheldon, but that didn't stop him from having my damn wife. Are you sure about this, Ian? I am more confident than ever. Their rescue from the railway hotel was shown on TV this morning. They were wearing only dressing gowns. Are you sure? Of course, I'm damn sure. My Floretta emerging from that damn life cradle looked like something out of a damn bad adult movie. Oh damn, we'd better try to get a copy of this recording. I wonder if they'll repeat this later so we can record it. Leave it to me, Ricky. You're just starting the divorce process. Are you in a bit of a hurry, Ian? Have you spoken to Floretta? Look, Ricky, there's nothing to talk about. I spent last night in the hotel bar talking to the woman of every man's dream. We also had breakfast together this morning. Ian, are you sure you should tell me this? Listen, buddy, I'm not done yet. Look, this woman is what all your dirty dreams are made of. She is a widow. Well, that's what she said. I think I should cover my back in case Floretta and Sheldon are up to something nefarious. Excuse me. Don't worry about it, Ricky. The thing is, I spent last night alone. I didn't do anything to be ashamed of, and while I behaved, Floretta and Sheldon were having fun at the railroad. So start the fucking paperwork. Whatever you say, Ian. Now I'll ask Carol to take on this matter. Ricky's call ended. My next few calls were to the bank and credit card companies. Damn that bitch. I canceled everything. I will temporarily use the company credit card until I can sort everything out. Floretta could access the money in the checking account, but there wasn't much there to worry about. The next call was to the TV channel. It took me a little while to get through to the right person since she was still in the control room. Shirley, this is Ian Cumberland. Shirley, another an old school friend, useful in a way, since she was once one of the people I could have formed a relationship with before I got together with Floretta. I know Shirley had a crush on me back then, and I was hoping she still held a grudge against Floretta for winning the race. Oh, so you saw it? Yes, I saw it, and I. Already done, Ian. I have a DVD in my bag now. 2 copies, in fact. One for you and one for your lawyer. Oh, you foresaw my request. Damn, Ian, if you hadn't seen this on the news, I was going to send you the disc myself. But be careful who you show it to. There are 2 files on the discs. One is called Broadcast. It can be shown to anyone, since it could be recorded from any TV. The second is the rest of the footage taken by the team during the night, If you show it too widely, it could get me in trouble. There are a few shots of the couple together, seemingly random. To be honest, when I saw these random shots, I was furious. Thank you, Shirley. Looks like I picked the wrong girl years ago. It would be interesting to live your life again, wouldn't it, Ian? But I was happy with the person I ended up with. Although a girl can always dream about what could have been. Look, I'm guessing you're going to use Ricky. Certainly. He's already got down to business. Fine. I'll drop these CDs off at his house on the way home later. He lives not far from me. This will give me a chance to see Angela and the kids. I hardly see her lately. Well, other than a few pleasantries, that was the end of the call. There was only one thing left to do. Find out if Stephanie Morris was who she said she was and cover her own back in case she wasn't. At the hotel reception, I asked for the manager and introduced myself to him. The sight of my business card brought a smile to his face. The company I work for installed a CCTV system in this hotel. He was a little hesitant to allow me to copy data from the hard drives since my arrival. But when I explained that there was a possibility that someone was trying to frame me, he agreed. I removed the equipment from the car and copied the previous 24 hours of recordings onto DVD. I knew the hotel would do the same at the end of the week, so I would have confirmation that the records had not been tampered with. Yes, this happens. My review or testing of a client's security system was unsuccessful for them. I slipped through the gate while the truck was being checked. The poor guard was alone and couldn't watch the monitors or be outside checking the truck. I just passed by on the other side. Once inside, the logoless jumpsuit meant no one could tell I wasn't supposed to be there. You can guess how it went. A typical company losing goods and money to petty theft because they were too stingy to spend some money and hire enough security guards. Having done my work, I set off on my way home. It was almost 4 o'clock when, approaching a service station on the highway, I realized that I had not eaten since the morning. Although I'm not much of a foodie on the highway, who knows what will happen when I get home. If Floretta or even Sheldon are there, I might spend the night in a cell, so I decided to stop and eat something. You know, I actually saw a National Express bus parked in the bus yard. Be observant, so they say. In my business, we learn to be observant. But damn, if I'm so good at this, why haven't I ever noticed anything? What were the signs that Sheldon and Floretta were having an affair? In any case, I didn't think much about the bus until Annie plopped down in the seat opposite me while I was eating. Hey, stranger, it seems like we run into each other all the time. Are you going home? She asked. Oh, hi, Annie. What are you doing here? Are you trying to get food poisoning? Yes, close to the truth, isn't it? I think most of the food here was prepared yesterday. No, I wouldn't eat here by choice, but the bus makes a half-hour stop here. They change drivers or something like that. What made you stop here? I thought you couldn't wait to go home to your wife. To my ex-wife, Annie. Annie was silent for several minutes, as if she was trying to comprehend what I had just said. What do you mean by ex-wife? What's happened? I briefly briefed Annie about this morning's events as the bus driver called the passengers back on board. I don't know how it happened, but I found out that Annie lived about 20 miles from my house, so I offered to give her a ride home. To be honest, I needed someone to talk to, and besides, if she didn't live where she said she was the day before, I would have found out quickly. I forced myself to eat a rather unappetizing meal while we talked, and then we were back on the road. Annie didn't talk much during the trip, but she was a great listener. It was 5:30 when I entered the territory of her gas station. I put gas in the car, just as a small token of gratitude for her company. She introduced me to her son and daughter, who looked at me with the same protectiveness I would expect from children worried about a recently widowed mother. I listened as Annie told them that her overdraft had been approved for another 6 months. After having a cup of coffee with them, I went home. Yes, it wasn't that easy for me to get off. I realized this when I arrived at my house. Floretta's car was parked in its usual place, and the lights were on in the house. I sat for a few minutes thinking about how to handle this meeting when an idea came to me, and I called Ricky on his cell phone. Are you home, buddy? I asked when Ricky answered the phone. Yes, it's already like 1 o'clock. Did you manage to watch those DVDs that Shirley brought in? Unfortunately, yes, Ian, and it's bad news. Well, good news for your divorce case, but bad news for Floretta. Nothing more than a little kissing and cuddling, but when you add in their clothes, no judge would believe he was just comforting her after a difficult ordeal. It's all in the bag, as far as you're concerned. Oh, I'm considering a case against Sheldon for invasion of privacy. That's rare these days, but if you're as angry as you sounded this morning, you might like to give it a try. Go ahead if you think it will annoy him. This bastard was my friend. I think he'll be surprised how many people he's upset with what he did. It will be funny if he tries to come to golf on Sunday. Why? Well, his regular golf foursome includes my partner Larry. He already told the guys that if Sheldon is playing, he won't. Oh, don't worry, he didn't tell them why. But Sheldon will still be expelled from the club in a week or so. You know, he's on commission for that argument with a guest at the tournament last week. He is accused of dishonest behavior, and Larry is on commission. And as Larry said, what could be more dishonest than seducing the wife of another club member? I smiled to myself when the call ended. Sheldon will be expelled from the golf club, and this will be only the first of the consequences that he will experience. I wonder what his wife will say when everything is revealed. No, I wasn't going to call Sheldon's wife. I like this girl. She will soon find out for herself what was happening. Entering the house, I found Floretta sitting in the kitchen and crying. Or so it seemed. Who knows? Maybe she was just acting out a scene. "What are you doing here, Floretta?" I asked as harshly as possible. After all, this woman was the love of my life, and when she cried, I cried inside too. I live here, and I need to talk to you. You don't live here anymore, but if you want to talk, I'll give you 10 minutes, and then I'll pick you up and throw you out. Suddenly, Floretta stopped crying. She was shocked. "You can't. Floretta, have I ever lied to you?" She tensed even more, realizing that I was serious. "But I'm your wife. You can't just kick me out. You were my wife until I found out that you were playing hide and seek with Sheldon. It's funny, but I couldn't bring myself to say have sex. But I love you. You can't kick me out. You love me." "Loved, you mean? I will no longer love a woman who takes me for a complete fool. How long have you been having sex? We don't." "Nonsense, Floretta. What are you telling me? You were in that hotel room with Sheldon playing damn Monopoly, and according to rumors, you hugged in that ambulance." Floretta started crying again, but I ignored them and put the kettle on. To hell with it, I wanted a cup of tea. Once Floretta realized that I was ignoring her, I think she began to realize that I was not joking. "Sorry, Ian. It was the first time, honestly." "Nonsense. Honestly. I don't believe you, Floretta, and by tomorrow I will have all the proof I need. I'll have more of the same ones, and I'll know about all the times you had sex with Sheldon and who else he had sex with at the railway, too." Floretta looked at me again, and I think that's when it finally dawned on her when she saw the DVDs I was holding in my hands. She seemed to suddenly remember that I had received a sizable commission check when I sold a surveillance system to the railway hotel. I didn't care about the fire. The computers themselves were located in a water and fire-resistant cabinet in the basement. I knew we would soon be testing them to see if there was evidence that the fire was arson. Standard procedure these days, insurance companies give discounts to customers when our systems are installed. Okay, but that was only the second time. That's all. Second time. The first time was enough to have you behind that damn door. But it was only sex, Ian. Sheldon means nothing to me. Why are you so angry if I do what you've always done? What are you talking about? Well, you have fun with women when you're on the road. I've never been outraged about this. I don't know where you got this damn idea, but I never did anything that I had to be ashamed of while I was away. And I have never jumped into bed with a stranger. Damn it, besides the fact that it would dishonor you, God knows what you might catch. AIDS and all that, you know? But Sheldon said, "Damn it, girl, how stupid are you? God, I thought I knew you, but it seems like I never did. Tell me something. I always felt like Sheldon always held a candle to you. Let's put it this way, I always felt like he wanted to get into your panties. How long has this asshole been trying to pick you up? Well, always, to be honest. But I thought he was just being friendly. So Sheldon told you that I was having an affair with someone, and you immediately jumped into bed with him. You couldn't wait to ask me about it. You just couldn't wait and decided to have sex with that bastard first. No, Ian, it wasn't like that. Sheldon told me a long time ago that you slept with some girl in London last year. And how could Sheldon know what I did or didn't do in London? You told him yourself when you were together one evening. Nonsense, Floretta. Sheldon probably lied to you to get you into bed, and you, the fool, bought it. Listen, I'll show you how I spend my nights when I'm not home. And it was still a good evening for me. I placed my laptop on the table and turned it on. I inserted one of the hotel DVDs into the drive, loaded the surveillance program, and began searching for the scenes I was looking for. Look, do you see this pretty woman? She doesn't remind you of anyone, maybe herself. I thought she looked a lot like you. Here, look. Some drunk pesters her, trying to get to know her, probably hoping for luck, like Sheldon with his prostitute. That's not very polite. It really hurts sometimes, Floretta. Look, here is your once loving husband coming to the lady's rescue. The skirmish, whatever it was over almost immediately before it could be realized that it was me. Take a close look at how I definitely show off my wedding ring. I tell her I'm happily married because I don't want any misunderstandings.
I switched the playback to high speed, slowing it down only to show the moment when I showed Annie the photos of Floretta and the children. Then I put it back on high until we left the bar together. After changing the dial, Floretta saw Annie and I go up in the elevator, and then saw Annie give me an innocent kiss on the cheek and thank me for a pleasant evening before walking down the hallway and entering her room. After searching a little more, I showed Floretta that I had entered my room and did not leave it until the morning.
Tell me, does this look like a husband who cheats on his wife? Annie was a sweet woman and lonely because her husband had died only 8 months ago. I'd say she was on the verge of some creep like Sheldon taking advantage of her position. But I'm not Sheldon. Now, if you don't mind, I would appreciate it if you would pack up your things and leave this house. Ian, you can't be serious, she exclaimed. Where will I go? I have no idea and don't want to know, I answered coldly. I stopped caring about it this morning when I saw the news. Now pack your things and leave before I lose my temper. You can't do this, Ian. We lived together for almost 20 years. It's a shame you didn't remember that last night or even the first time you let that bastard fuck you. Maybe Sheldon's wife will let you move in with them. Did you think about her while he had you? Please don't. Who would say, you made your choice, now enjoy the consequences. Listen, I'm going to the pub for a while. When I return, please get out of this house. I heard her shout, Ian, when I left the house. I locked my computer in the boot of my car, went to the pub and drank quite a bit. It was almost 11 when I returned home. Floretta's car was gone, and the house seemed dark and empty. As soon as I entered the house, the phone rang insistently. Mr. Cumberland? Asked the voice when I picked up the phone. Yes, Mark Thornton, director of the Music Academy. I'm afraid we have a problem. Marinette has run away. What? She wasn't in the room for the evening check at 10:30. All students must be in the dormitories no later than 10. Marinette wasn't there. Oh, I'm sure she just went out with her friends and lost track of time. Children today don't know. No, Mr. Cumberland, she was seen getting into a car with a young man about 8 o'clock. We found a video recording on the system your company installed. It's a very good system, you know. She saved us from panic more than once. Her friend said she had been in a strange mood all day, which is why they didn't see her. But when we saw her get into the car, we were forced to call the police and you. This can be very serious. What car? Small, with a racer coloring. I'm afraid I don't know much about models. With fiery stripes on the wheel arches and a dragon painted on the hood. Yes, I think so. Do you know this car? Tell me, Mr. Thornton, Do your students watch the morning news? Well, they can. The dormitories have televisions in the halls. I think they have enough time to watch between breakfast and first period. I think you'd better cancel the alarm, Professor. We have a family problem at home, and I believe it will soon be revealed that Marinette and her brother are coming home to help solve it. Please give Marinette family leave for a few days. Are you sure it was her brother who was in the car? As much as possible. There are few cars like his. What time did you say they left? It was 5 minutes to 8 on the screen. Then they should be here very soon if my son is driving as usual. He is a fairly responsible driver. I'll let you know when they arrive. If you are sure, Mr. Cumberland, I'll cancel the police and leave it up to you. About 20 minutes later, I heard the noisy exhaust of a car approaching the house. The children discovered that the door was open. "Dad, where is Mom?" my daughter asked when she entered the kitchen where I was sitting, waiting. "I don't have the slightest idea, and I don't want to know," I replied. "Did you see the news this morning?" asked the son, Jack. "So are you too, I assume." "I don't. Marinette saw them and called me to ask what we should do. I thought we'd better talk to Mom. It's a little late for long conversations with her, I'm afraid." She left. I kicked her out. "But you can't just kick her out." "This is her home," Marinette exclaimed. "Oh, I can, and she knows it. We don't own this house. It is held in a family trust. I can live in it until I die. If your mother were married to me, which she won't be soon, she could live her life in it. Then any of you who wish to live in it can stay. If no one wants to live here, the house will go to my sister or one of her children. You see, no matter what happens after the divorce, your mother will have no rights to this house. She can go and settle down with her lover. But Uncle Sheldon is married. Please don't call him Uncle Sheldon in front of me, Jack. Once I divorce your mother and Sheldon's wife divorces him, if these two adulterers decide to live together and get married, you can call him Daddy or whatever you want. But in my presence, don't call him anything. I'm sorry, Dad, but I will only call him a bastard for what he and Mother did to our family." Marinette seemed to have cried all her tears on the way home, but I had a job for her. "Now, young lady, you'd better call Professor Thornton and let him know you got home safely. You almost gave the poor man a heart attack." I noticed that Marinette was not very keen on fulfilling my request. Her brother also noticed this, and it was he who took the initiative. "I'll call him if you want, Marinette." "I shouldn't have taken you away without his permission," Jack said, going into the living room to make a call from there. "If you dial 1471, you can use the callback service," I shouted after him. "But where is Mom, Dad?" Marinette asked again. I said I don't know and I don't care. Call her on her cell phone if you really need to know. But don't be surprised if a man answers. Marinette took out her cell phone and turned it on. "The academy kept calling me, so I turned it off," she explained reluctantly. "Mom, how could you do this to us?" Marinette suddenly shouted into the phone. Then there were a few seconds of silence before she continued. "I have never been so disgustingly disappointed in my life. Is this supposed to be an excuse? Because I don't believe it one bit. No, I'm at home with Dad, and Jack is here too. No, he didn't call us. I saw you on TV this morning. I almost felt bad. It was obvious that you weren't wearing anything under that robe. This is disgusting. Luckily, none of my friends at the academy recognized you, otherwise I would never have been able to look them in the eyes. No, I don't want to see you or talk to you, at least for a while. I just wanted to know where you were and that you were okay. I think Jack and I will stay with Dad for a few days to make sure he's okay. You should have thought about this yesterday, Mom. It's late now, isn't it? And Mom, in case you were wondering, Jack and I talked a lot on the way home. We both think that we will stay with Dad if he accepts us. It's too late to cry now, Mom. Isn't that what you always told us when we were little? I better go. I'm not sure how much credit I have left on my phone, and to be honest, I might say something I regret later. You'll have to call Jack and ask him yourself, won't you? Goodbye, Mom. Marinette ended the conversation. You were a little cruel to her, don't you think? I asked. No, Dad, not as cruel as I would have been a few hours ago. Jack and I didn't know what to do if you didn't find out. We were completely stumped, wondering if we could live if we didn't tell you. Probably the only way would be to never return home. But we're back, so now you know what we were going to do and how angry we are at Mom. She's your mother, Morinette, no matter what she does. Yes, we still love her, but we don't have to love her actions and what she did to you and with our family. Jack suddenly called Marinette into the living room. It seemed that the professor wanted to talk to her. She left me alone with my thoughts. Things got a little chaotic over the next few days. There were calls from Floretta's sister and several friends. Unfortunately, it seems like almost everyone saw the damn news story and had nothing to say. Floretta found herself a lawyer who quickly began arguing about the house. As soon as Ricky told him about the terms of the trust, he immediately shut up. Floretta received half, so it seemed to her, of our common fortune. Having trust should tell you that my family has always been good with money. We have quite a lot of foreign investments, the income from which is transferred to offshore accounts with numbers. To be honest, I'm not sure I know how much money is actually stashed here and there. But what the IRS doesn't know, it can't spend on waging wars, right? Before the divorce, Sheldon got into trouble. Very strange things, I tell you. Jack insisted that I go with him that day. I still don't understand why he had to sit in the magistrate's court all morning. Several times he spoke out in such a way that the judge almost kicked him out. Later, it became clear to me that these judges and police officers who were on duty that day would not soon forget us. I don't think it was just a coincidence that someone chose that morning to beat up Sheldon and throw him down the stairs in the city's multi-story parking lot. To be honest, he could have fallen himself while trying to escape. The other strange thing was that Sheldon's wife was sitting in the same court on the same morning. You know, I always thought some of Jack's friends were pretty shady when he was younger. Floretta lived with Jenny and Joseph for some time, but then, apparently, something happened. I don't know what it is exactly, but I know they don't talk to each other anymore. Joe and Sheldon were very similar, so I wouldn't be surprised. No, this is speculation and unfair to Floretta. She lived in a small apartment after that. I've never been there, but the kids said it was a real hole. Floretta tried to contact me several times. I know she hoped for reconciliation. There probably would have been some chance, if not for the incident when she chose a bad night to go out with friends from work. She later told the children that this was the first time she had the courage to show her face in the city. Unfortunately, she drank too much. Floretta never knew how to drink and walked into me and the girl I was dancing with. For some reason, Floretta was furious when she saw me dancing with another woman. She accused us of sleeping together. It was awkward for me, and for the girl, and for her husband, who was sitting at our table, having missed this dance. Floretta grabbed the man closest to her and asked him to take her home and have sex. In fact, he refused, since he was also a member of our company. But since then I have refused to acknowledge her presence or speak to her. Almost 2 years have passed since the divorce. Jack moved back home after college and is still looking for a full-time job. For some reason, kids are so picky these days. Marinette came over for the Easter holidays, and we went for a drive around the area looking for another pub to grab a bite to eat. Marinette was the first to notice the waitress and made some comment to Jack. "She's really beautiful. I think I might fall in love with her," Jack replied. When my attention was drawn to her, I realized that her face was familiar to me and thought for a moment. Then he realized who it was. I didn't say anything until she came over to take our order. "Hi, Michelle. How is Annie?" I asked. For a moment, everyone, Michelle, Jack, and Marinette, was stunned by the silence. My kids had no idea how I knew this charming young waitress, because I told them I had never been to this pub before and Michelle didn't seem to recognize me. But Michelle quickly recovered and continued the conversation politely. "Mom is fine, thank you. Have you already chosen what you want to order? I think my son, Jack, wants to order you, actually. Let me introduce you." "Dad, don't be so rude," exclaimed Marinette. Poor Michelle didn't know what to say. "Jack, this is Michelle Morris." Michelle, allow me to introduce Mr. Jack Cumberland. He is well educated and already accustomed to order, I said. Michelle and, oh damn, all the kids were blushing for their own reasons. I sat with a smile on my face. Mr. Cumberland, Michelle finally said. Of course, now I remember you. Sorry, I didn't recognize you right away. But you still remember the name. Mom talked a lot about you. I'm flattered, but tell me, why do you work here, Mitchell? I thought you were helping Mom in the garage. You can't make much money selling gasoline now. We keep the gas station open, but without a workshop, it's difficult for us. They don't pay much here, but it helps. So, if I'm not mistaken, your brother was going to open the workshop again, wasn't he? Well, if we can hold out until he graduates, yes, that's what he wants. I turned and looked at Jack. How do you like the idea of working in a country garage, Jack? Oh, the bonus might be that you'll see Michelle every day. And I think this place is associated with an enthusiastic student. What do you think, Mitchell? Jack is qualified and has not yet found a garage that he likes. I'm not sure. You need to talk to your mom. We'll do it right after lunch. We ordered, and over dinner, I told the kids about my evening with Annie. Oh, and I offered to show them the DVD of that night so they wouldn't get the wrong idea about their dad. This time, Marinette surprised me. Turns out she found these DVDs in my desk drawer and watched them over and over again, trying to figure out why I needed them. We were still eating when Marinette said, "Oh, it seems you have guests, Dad." I turned to look where Marinette was looking and saw Annie just walking through the door. I have to say she looked great in those skinny jeans. I stood up before she noticed me. With a wide smile, she came up to me and hugged me tightly. "I didn't think you'd ever come back," Annie said. Damn, she had tears in her eyes. "Oh, damn," I cried too. "I didn't want you to think I was acting rashly," I told her. "Damn it, man, I wouldn't care." "Dad, this is awkward. Everyone is looking at you. Please sit down, both of you lovebirds," Marinette told me, even though I've seen her wrapped around some pathetic guy so many times over the past couple of years. So where do we go from here? Is there any point in telling you a long story? Annie and I got married 4 months later and live in a bungalow next to the garage. Jack lives in a trailer for now. We are waiting for planning permission to build a second bungalow for him and Michelle when they get married. They got engaged 6 months after our wedding. Things are going well in the garage. Some foreign investors invested a lot of money in modernization, and Annie no longer has to worry about debt. This man seems in no hurry to receive dividends from his investments. Philip and Marinette can't take their eyes off each other and almost stutter when they talk. But since Marinette tours almost all the time with her orchestra, they rarely see each other. However, they spend a lot of money on calls. Annie and I have high hopes for them. Let's see what happens. Floretta, she bought a small house in the village and works as a cleaner and waitress in a pub. I don't think it brings in a lot of money, but she sees Jack a lot. I still don't talk to her, but Annie does. Annie says Floretta understands what she's lost. Sheldon, this is where things got really weird. His wife divorced him, and she got together and then married one of my colleagues. My understanding is that Sheldon moved in with his brother and Jenny, but soon after that the police came asking where I had been one evening. Oh, they already came after Sheldon had trouble in the parking lot. This time it was more serious. Sheldon was hit by a car. The police thought he would never walk again. I think someone said that he now walks on crutches. But here's the irony. He lives in Jenny's house, and Joseph is now on the run charged with attempted murder. Do you know how much it costs to bring a wanted person outside of Europe? Canada is a big country, they say. Life goes on. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think click to the next one. Click to the next one. Click to the next one.